All right, welcome back to the channel. Today's the big day. We're going to go ahead and install the motor. Got a couple friends coming over because we're going to need a couple extra set of hands. But before we start getting the motor in, I elected to use the Breeze battery box that moves the battery to the front end of the car. So we're going to go ahead and install that first because it's going to be difficult to get to once we get the motor in place. Okay, the Breeze battery box gets installed right in this space right here. Just like this. We're going to run 3 stainless steel rivets here, and we're going to tap 2 screws into this main tube here. Before we put the box in and go ahead, we'll drill the holes, but before we start buttoning things up, we're going to go ahead and replace this grease fitting right here. It gives us a 90-degree fitting where this is pointing upwards so that I can easily get a grease gun onto this once the battery is in the way here. So let's just plug right in like that. And you can see right there, it's got the vertical nipple on it. We'll put the little cap on it. There you go. It's all set. Okay, let's go ahead and drill these 2 holes. And we're drilling holes to accept a quarter by 20 tap. Okay, there's the completed installation. You can see the line of rivets there. Go ahead and point at those for me, Gary. Those are stainless steel rivets that go into the cross member. And on this side, you're supposed to tap into the cross member there. I ended up using riv nuts instead. And it's set up to where you actually have to put a couple of spacer washers. You can see it's not really square the way it fits in there. Okay, cool thing about these Blueprint engines is they come with a bracket all the way attached here so you can hook your engine hoist to. Very convenient. Okay, next step we're going to go ahead and put the motor mounts and the transmission mount and attach them to the motor. Okay, it's not really possible to film this and put it in at the same time. So instead of you just looking at pictures of our backs as we wiggle around, I'm going to speed this up and talk you through what we're doing. So you can see we got the engine mounts mounted on the engine there. I got my hand on it right now. And once you get it jacked up, oh, one other thing, look underneath Gary's elbow. See that blue stripe? We put tape over all the bars that the engine could hit, and that keeps us from getting everything scuffed up. The whole key is to just get it cranked up, put it down at an angle like you see, and go slow. Slow, slow, slow. And just slowly move it back. And as you move it back, you'll start to slowly lower it down, and it'll slide in place. Okay, we'll put Sean underneath there to help wiggle and jiggle that transmission in place. But one of the key things you need to do is get the little pins on the motor mount to line up with the slots on the frame. Yeah, right there. You can see the motor mount bolt in place, and there's that little pin I was talking about. You want to make sure those. Okay, this little plug here that we had zip tied up to the cable here to keep it out of the way, turns out that's for the speedometer, and that plugs right into the transmission down there where you see it. Okay, so we got the engine installed. Some lessons learned from that. First of all, when you get the engine delivered, when that guy pulls up and he's got that pallet jack to move it around, hello darling, when he's got that pallet jack to move it around, make sure you position it. Have in mind how you're going to get it out of the box, because I didn't do that. I had it set up perpendicular to the car in a pretty tight garage, and what you didn't see in the video was the 3 of us trying to figure out a way to spin that thing around to get the motor out, because as Gary pointed out, when you pick the motor up off of the crate, you don't want to drag it off, right? If you can't get the hoist right over it, when you lift up on it, you're going to drag the bottom of that motor across the box, and you don't want to do that. So you got to be able to get that crate positioned, and then we actually had to jack the crate up and put some underneath it so we could slide the hoist underneath the crate and be able to lift that thing up vertically. The other thing we had to do, and I don't want to say had to do, but it was really helpful to remove the top of the shifter. Now, you know, you can move that shifter from the rear position to the front position just by spinning it around. I'll show you a picture of that in a minute. But
We removed that, and it gave us a couple extra inches to play with and really made things a lot easier. And then the last thing is people. We had 3 people here, all of which had changed motors before. I think 3 is probably your minimum number, wouldn't you say, Gary? 3 is the minimum. 4, you probably wouldn't want more than 5 because now you're going to get a lot of people stepping on each other. But I would say 3 people is the minimum. Anything else, Gary?
Make sure you got a forward rack where you pull up and down the car.
Yeah. The other thing we had to do was we had to take it off of this lift because the lift is kind of narrow on the bottom and it made it hard for somebody to get underneath there. More importantly, once they were underneath there, they couldn't roll out to the side if something went wrong. They had to come back out through the front. So that's a bad idea. If you are going to, we had to put someone under the car. You saw Sean under there moving the transmission around. I like the idea that he could just scoot out the side if something goes sideways. Probably the biggest lesson learned is take your time. Go nice and slow, get everything lined up, get those pins to line up, and it'll drop right in. It's not really difficult. You just have to go slow and take your time. Okay, what Gary's doing here is we're hooking up a mount for the throttle cable. You can see that part sitting on top of the air cleaner there. It's just a simple piece you order from Amazon. I'll put a link down in the comments section. And this just gives a mounting point to hook up your throttle cable. It bolts right there to the 2 main bolts at the base of the sniper system. And then I'll show you how the rest goes together. Okay, next step is this little piece. Mounts right in here, just like this. I know this is kind of hard to see. I'll get you a good photograph when we're done. But this sets up to allow the cable to come up and hook directly up to the throttle body. Don't slam your throttle body like that either. It's not nice. Okay, Gary just installed the bracket to the throttle cable right there. Okay, this is the end of the throttle cable here. We're going to go ahead and loosen this Allen nut, and then we're going to slide this part off, just like that. And then we're going to come over here, and we're going to take this nut off so that we can slide it on into the little clamp that holds it. All right, now this feeds through here. And of course, this is still adjustable here, so we can play with that. Then this locks the throttle cable in position, and we can also get adjustment off of this. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out exactly how we want to attach this and what length we need to cut this to, and we'll go ahead and trim this, and then we'll put this back on. Okay, so you can see we got the ball attached to the appropriate spot on the sniper. When you come back, you've got that little nut right there you have to tighten up after you get the cable in and tighten down on the Allen nut. Go ahead and touch that Allen nut on top right here. Yep, there's a little Allen nut right there that holds the cable in place, okay? And then the last thing you tighten down is you come up and you tighten down the clamp that holds the throttle cable in place. And then those 2 bolts right there, those slide on that rail to just the throttle. And then once you get it all hooked up, hopefully, works like that. So there you go, looking good. On the alternator, it's real easy. It's a single wire alternator. You hook the hot wire back here, and you hook the ground right here. And then over here, you can see where we routed it to keep it out of the way, keep it away from dangling down onto our pipes and all that, and from flopping around inside the engine compartment. Okay, you can see it bolted up to the starter there, running right down the tube. Picks up the 4-inch tube, runs back up to the negative post. I just hope I don't regret cutting the corner here, because I had enough cable that if I wanted to, I could have run it around here and down. So hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me. Okay, next piece I'm going to run is a jumper cable, or a small ground jumper that's going to come up from this bolt right here, and we're going to drill a 1024, or we're going to drill a hole here and tap it for 1024, clean off all of the powder coat, and bolt it right there. Okay, there it is. You can see a jumper running from the battery to the chassis, and of course we remove the powder coat before we put that bolt in there. Okay, grounding strap. Hooked it to the motor there, and then if you follow down to the motor mount down here, there's actually a hole already drilled there. You just have to go in and get the powder coat off to give you a nice clean attachment point. That's all there is to it. Right here we got the harness that goes to the starter. The 3 large hot wires attached to the starter itself, and this goes off to the solenoid. So if you look down here, we're going to hook the 3 big wires to the big bolt, and we're going to hook the little blue wire to the little bolt. Okay, there it is, all hooked up. I had to change this here over to a spade, a female spade. It did have just a regular ring on it, so that attached right there. And then the other thing I did was, the 2 bundles come out of the firewall. I zip tied these 2 together just to keep the engine one, or the starter one, from rubbing up against the back of the engine. Well, I was a little worried about the installation of these, and it has come to pass that having them spread out like this is not going to work. The hood strut needs to be 20 inches from the front of the car, which would put it about right here. And of course, the way I had these before, they extended out to about here. So all I did was I just overlapped the attachment points so that I could squeeze them closer together. So that's what we did. Real simple. I put it together just the way I did the last time. I just made it shorter and overlapped them. And then you can see this one, the bracket's actually lower, but I raised the can up so that they're all straight across from the top. That's all there is to it. Okay, got the fuel system completed now. Got the fuel regulator here. Comes off, and it doesn't matter which side of the sniper you hook to as far as fuel coming in and fuel coming out. I bring the fuel in from the back, bringing it out from the front. Like I said, it really doesn't matter. The other thing I did was, you got 1 vacuum line. Now, right back here on the back of the sniper is another location where you can hook that vacuum line up, but it's kind of hard to see. But there's all kinds of wires and cables and nonsense back there, and I just didn't want to mess with it. So I just ran it up along the front here, and I hooked it into this front portion here. They're all the same. It doesn't matter which one you use. As far as the fuel system, where it comes in here, you can see it just runs right down on the leg like it's supposed to, and then back out through the bottom of the car right down there. We finished up the installation of the battery. Now you can see the ground right there, the positive right there going to the starter, and I ran them on opposite sides of the main rail up back to the battery. Another question you might have on the battery is, why do I have my positive and negative crossing like that? Well, on this particular battery, with the posts, I wanted the post towards the front, so everything that's hooked up is as far away as possible from everything that's spinning here. So in doing that, I put the ground on the driver's side, which meant they had to cross over. So while that doesn't look real clean, it gets everything further away from all the spinny stuff that it could get caught up in. Next step is install the headers, and then we'll get the pipes on. Before we can do that, though, Blueprint has these stickers on here, and they come off fairly easy. This one's already been off, so but once you get that off, it leaves a residue, a glue residue around this surface here, and you want to make sure you get in there and clean that up, because the last thing you want is anything interfering with that exhaust gasket. Okay, important thing to note when you mount the headers, there's actually 2 holes that you could mount in, and the headers that come from Factory 5 on this Blueprint 347 mount to the innermost hole. What you do is you just get your headers on there loose. You put one on the front, and another one back here in the back, and you can see the bolts are real loose there. Then we'll just drop the gasket in place, and it'll hold itself in place while we get the rest of the nuts in. Okay, so you can see we have the header on here loosely. Now we're going to go ahead and get the gasket, the exhaust gasket put in. And when you install it, make sure the raised portion is facing out. And the way this goes in is you're just going to slide it in, and the two ends bolts that you put in are going to hook on that, and that's going to hold it right where it needs to be so you can get the rest of the bolts in. Just like that. Boom. Now we can get the rest of the bolts in and tighten it up. Very important when you're putting your headers on. A little bit of anti-seize on these bolts, or your life is going to be miserable in the future. Okay, there it is, all snugged and tightened up with the spark plug wires put back in place. Remember, it's hypercritical that your spark plug wires go to the right plug, so if they're not already numbered like they are here on the blueprint, wires, make sure you mark them before you take them apart so you know how to put them back together. My technique for tightening this up is I just get everything like a quarter turn past half tight, and then I do a little bit on each end, do it probably a half a turn on each one all the way across and then back across the other way, and just keep going like that till I get it as snug as I want it to be. I don't know if it's really necessary to go through all that, but that's the way I've done it for years. All right, next is we're going to go ahead and hook up this little ball joint here. It's pretty simple. It's 3 bolts and the locking nuts on the end there. Right now we're just going to snug this up so it can still move a little bit, because we got to get the pipe in and adjust how the pipe's going to go on there. Okay, you can see I got this snugged up. I can still move it, but it's pretty much secure there. So now we can go ahead and hook the cool part to it. All right, first step, this bracket gets mounted right here on to the front of this bracket on the pipe. Once we get the support arm in place, now we're going to go gasket and hook it up to the ball like that. Okay, so once we get the pipe set where we want it, next thing we're going to do is tighten up this here and secure it in place. See if that moves.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. The next thing we have to do is go underneath and hook up the support bracket.
Okay, this is a view from under the car. First thing you do is you line up that rubber hanger with the hole that you can see in that arm there. And then what I did was I lifted it up probably about 1/4 of an inch, and that's where I drilled the hole to put the bolt in to hold the hanger there. That way, when the weight of the pipe hangs on it, it's still about where I want it. The next thing I did was I went and I attached the bolt through here to hold it in place. And then once that's secure, you take the drill and you line it up through this hole, and then you drill into the frame to put the second mount in place. Okay, what this mount is hooking to is a bolt that's running all the way through the 2-inch pipe that you can't see under this panel. And then it screws into this rubber piece here. Now, once I had it secured, I had a little bit of a gap, so you can see I put a couple washers there. Once you get it so it's all snugged up nice, then you go ahead and put the nut on the end, and that's the complete installation.
I'm going to go ahead and hook up the power steering. First thing you need to do is you need to go ahead and put your AN6 fittings here and here. And you also need to put one right here on the pump. The return line is just clamps in place, so that's simple. So the original power steering lines I got were made to hook to a power steering pump that was on this side of the motor, but that's not a power steering pump. So I just took the original hose that was made by Factory 5 and I put a new end on it. And we're going to use that braided line as the pressure side. And we have a reinforced rubber line that I made that we're going to use for the turn side, because this just hooks to a nipple. And I just like the idea of having a rubber hose over a nipple vise, a braided line. So the first thing you do is you install the fittings here and here, very simple. And then you hook the hose to it. Your pressure line hooks back up right here. Hooks to this nipple right here, kind of like that. And of course, I'll put a clamp on it and slide it all the way up in there. That's all there is to that. Good look at the final installation here. You can see I hooked the two hoses together, zip ties, just to keep it nice and clean. And then we went and used a little clamp here to secure it to the side so it doesn't flop around. I think it looks real sharp. Hooking up the hydraulic line for the hydraulic clutch throwout bearing. The line that originally came with the kit wasn't long enough, so I bought this on eBay. It's just a generic 60-inch AN4 hydraulic line. So we're going to start up at the master cylinder with a standard brake line. We'll bend it, and then we'll hook on this little adapter here on the end, which gives us an AN4 attachment point. And then we'll hook this line to it, and we'll run it down to the throwout bearing. And that's all there is to it. Okay, started with our little piece of brake line right there. See, we bent it around to clear everything that's going to be in the way, and then we're going to run that braided line through that bushing there and down to the transmission. All right, so here you got the AN4 line all hooked up. Comes through this little grommet here, and then it circles around. After it comes around the corner, I went and I made a little attachment point here. This is actually my throttle cable up here, and this is the hydraulic line down to the throwout bearing here, and it goes and runs right on down to the transmission area. Okay, and there's the final attachment where it hooks up to the transmission, and you can see the bleed line right there. And that's it, we're done. Well, there you have it, we got it done. Engine's in the car. That's it for this video. Please, please, please hit that subscribe button. Very important to us. Make sure you like and subscribe. And on the next one, we'll be taking a crack at the dashboard and putting some more tins on. Be sure to join us. Ow, ow, you're hurting me. Are you helping me? Are you supposed to be helping me? Is that, ow, that hurts.
Is that it right there?